Okay, so to finish the show off today, the 92nd Academy Awards are set to air on ABC this Sunday at I believe 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I just want to give my final predictions before the show. Just a couple things that I want to get out of the way that are pretty obvious. Are there going to be a bunch of overly long, pretentious political speeches? Yes, we know that. I'm still kind of curious to see how things will go without a host for now the second year in a row. Is this going to become a tradition? I really don't know, but I'm just going to get right into the categories. Now, just a couple of disclaimers. As with my predictions for the nominations, there are a few categories that, again, I just know nothing about. Don't really have much of an interest in following. This includes, documentary short, live action short, documentary feature. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I either just don't have the interest or just don't know enough to make any real predictions about it. So I'm just gonna get right into it. Best makeup nominees are Bombshell, Joker, Judy, 1917, and Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. I'm not really sure. For me, it's a toss up between Bombshell and Joker. But I'm just gonna end up going with Joker because I just feel like there's more momentum behind that movie. With they made the iconic look of the Joker on Joaquin Phoenix, so my money's just gonna be on Joker. That's my predicted winner. Costume design nominees are The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Woman, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm gonna predict The Irishman because I watched a behind the scenes look at the film and just what the costume department had to do. They had to apply these period, just these period. Oh, excuse me. They had to design these period costumes for hundreds and hundreds of people because, of course, it's not again just the people that you're focused on the screen. It's all the extras as well. So they had to design a lot of very complex outfits for a lot of people. So I think that The Irishman deserves to be recognized in this particular category. So my predicted winner is going to be The Irishman. For production design, the nominees are The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. For me, I think I'm going to go with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood being my predicted winner. Because, again, the recreation of nostalgic Hollywood is just so well done. And I think that's something that the old-fashioned Academy members are going to eat up. So I'm going to predict Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for this one. For the sound categories, editing and mixing, I'm going to start with mixing. Nominees are Ad Astra, Ford v Ferrari, Joker, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. War movies, for me, it's a toss-up between Ford v Ferrari and 1917. I feel like war movies just tend to do better in sound categories, but I could see maybe Ford v Ferrari taking sound mixing or 1917 taking editing or just one taking both of them. Like I said, I feel like war movies just tend to do better here. So for sound mixing, I'm going to go with 1917. And for sound editing, the nominees are pretty similar. Nominees are Ford v Ferrari, Joker, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. My pick is, again, 1917. Best visual effects, nominees are Avengers Endgame, The Irishman, The Lion King, 1917, and Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. There was a lot of great work in visual effects. There's a very strong set of nominees. The Irishman and The Lion King alone both had groundbreaking work, but for my predicted winner, I'm going to go with The Lion King because that's the thing that stands out the most about this movie, and I feel like when it comes to just the most, like I said, the most groundbreaking, I feel like watching these photorealistic animals, just how convincing they are, and just the entire world that they're put in, that I feel like is going to sell the most. And again, you have The Jungle Book, Jon Favreau's other Disney adaptation, winning in Best Visual Effects a couple years ago, so I feel like that's going to repeat here. So my predicted winner for Best Visual Effects is The Lion King. Film editing nominees are Ford v Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, and Parasite. I'm going to go with Parasite. Cinematography, The Irishman, Joker, The Lighthouse, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. A lot of great work in cinematography this year. Again, but the other nominees, to be honest, aren't relevant in comparison to what they did with 1917. Just the complicated motions that they did with the camera, the one-shot illusion, especially for a war film. When I first heard about that, my mind was blown already. And then, of course, when I walked out of the film, that remained constant. So there's no way Roger Deakins doesn't take home his second Oscar for 1917. Best Original Song, I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away from Toy Story 4. I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocket Man. I'm Standing With You from Breakthrough. Into the Unknown from Frozen 2. And Stand Up from Harriet. I feel like this is one of the harder categories to predict especially this year. I'm Gonna Love Me Again won the Golden Globe. That's really the only precursor I have for what's gonna win here. So I'm just gonna go with I'm Gonna Love Me Again for Rocketman. I feel like that can be kind of like making up for not nominating the film in other categories, because I feel like there are other spots where the film should have been nominated, and it just seemed to get snubbed all across the board. So I feel like they're gonna give this as kind of like, oh, we're sorry, here, take this one. For original score, the nominees are Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. The scores here that stand out the most to me, of course, are Joker, Marriage Story, and 1917. A lot of great work in those in particular. Joker won the Golden Globe, but I just feel like the score for 1917 added just a bit more to the film than the score for Joker did. Again, not bashing the score for Joker at all or how they use the music, but I just feel like 1917 just it stood out more to me in terms of how it contributed to the rest of the film. So my predicted winner for original score is going to be 1917. Best international film, they've just renamed it. It used to be foreign language film. Based on the very, very limited knowledge that I know, nominees are Corpus Christi from Poland, Honeyland from North Macedonia, Les Miserables from France, Pain and Glory from Spain, and Parasite from South Korea. Now, looking at these nominees, there's only one that's also a Best Picture nominee, and that's Parasite. So, if they nominate this one here, and also in Best Picture, I can't possibly imagine what's going to win this one. So this is kind of like with Up and Toy Story 3 being nominated for both Best Animated Feature and Best Picture. Like, did anyone really think that any of the other nominees were going to win an animated feature when you have a Best Picture nominee in that same category for basically what's saying, like, oh, the best film in that medium? So, of course, Up and Toy Story 3 won. So, I think this is a similar case here. So, Parasite, there's no way Parasite doesn't win Best International Film. And it was a wonderful film, so it definitely deserves to, at least in comparison to Pain and Glory. Animated feature, How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, I Lost My Body, Klaus, Missing Link, and Toy Story 4. I feel like based on the buzz that I'm hearing about Missing Link, it was one of the films that I just did not get to see this year. I kind of regret it. But based on what I'm hearing about this film, it could kind of be a dark horse. If there is a surprise on Oscar night, then I feel like this is going to be the one that could possibly sneak up there. But my gut is still on Toy Story 4. Like I said earlier in the show, this is a sequel that we didn't know that we wanted and ended up adding just a lot more to the franchise than I originally thought. So my particular winner for Best Animated Feature is Toy Story 4. Alright, so now we're getting into the more major categories. Starting off with Best Supporting Actress. The nominees are Kathy Bates and Richard Jewell for playing Barbara Jewell, Laura Dern in Marriage Story for playing Nora Fanshawe, Scarlett Johansson in Jojo Rabbit for playing Rosie Betzler, Florence Pugh in Little Women for playing Amy March, and Margot Robbie in Bombshell for playing Kayla Pospisil. Hope I'm saying her name right. Laura Dern has seemed to be winning just every other major award this circuit, so my predicted winner is going to be Laura Dern in Marriage Story. She's been around a long time. She was terrific in the film, so I think the win here definitely makes a lot of sense. Best Supporting Actor, the nominees are Tom Hanks in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood for playing Fred Rogers, Anthony Hopkins in The Two Popes for playing Pope Benedict XVI, Al Pacino in The Irishman for playing Jimmy Hoffa, Joe Pesci in The Irishman for playing Russell Buffalino, and Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for playing Cliff Booth. As much as I love Joe Pesci in The Irishman, I'd love to see him win. Again, Brad Pitt is the same case as Laura Dern. He's been winning almost every single major award precursor before the Oscars. So I'd be very surprised that if he doesn't win Best Supporting Actor for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Best Actress, the nominees are Cynthia Erivo in Harriet for playing Harriet Tubman, Scarlett Johansson in Marriage Story for playing Nicole Barber, Saoirse Ronan in Little Women for playing Jo Marsh, Charlize Theron in Bombshell for playing Megyn Kelly, and Renee Zellweger in Judy for playing Judy Garland. Again, same case as the other two acting categories. Renee Zellweger's been winning just about every single award precursor. So I'm going to go with my predicted winner being Renee Zellweger in Judy. Best Actor, Antonio Banderas in Pain and Glory for playing Salvador Mayo, Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for playing Rick Dalton, Adam Driver in Marriage Story for playing Charlie Barber, Joaquin Phoenix in Joker for playing Arthur Fleck / Joker, and Jonathan Pryce in The Two Popes for playing Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio, otherwise known as Pope Francis. Again, Joaquin Phoenix has been taking every single award across the cycle, so I'd be very surprised if he doesn't win. something I'm noticing with the acting categories this year. These four categories, they seem to be just very, very predictable in terms of who's going to win. So Joaquin Phoenix is, I think, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't win. Moving on to the writing categories. Nominees are The Irishman, Steven Zaillian, Jojo Rabbit, Taika Waititi, Joker, Todd Phillips and Scott Silver, Little Women, Greta Gerwig, and The Two Popes, Anthony McCartan. Now, those first four nominees, for the longest time, I could have seen any one of them winning up until pretty recently. The Two Popes, as well written as it was, I feel like it was that kind of nominee that just barely slipped in there. But since Jojo Rabbit won the Writers Guild Award for Best Adapted Screenplay, that's usually one of the best predictors as to what's going to win the Oscar. That was the one that I think put it out in front of the other three nominees that I mentioned. So Jojo Rabbit, I think, is going to take Best Adapted Screenplay. So Korg is going to not only an Oscar nominee, but I think he's going to be an Oscar winner as of Sunday night. Best Original Screenplay, the nominees are Knives Out, Rian Johnson, Marriage Story, Noah Baumbach, 1917, Sam Mendes and Christy Wilson Cairns, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino, and Parasite, Bong Joon-ho and Han Jin-won. Now, this race seems to be between Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Parasite, and then, of course, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood won the Golden Globe for Best Screenplay. It has the whole, again, Hollywood nostalgia factor behind it, has a Quentin Tarantino factor behind it. He's won this category. He's won awards in this category twice before. But I feel like Parasite, there's like a sneaking momentum, there's a sneaking buzz behind the film. And just, again, with all the social themes that it addresses, with the fact that it wasn't as divisive as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, with the fact that there seems to be a lot more going on in this particular story, and is weaved together in a more efficient fashion than I feel Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was. Again, not necessarily bashing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but because like the extra fluff that movie had didn't bother me at all. But I just feel like, Parasite, with all that it has going on, it's much more streamlined. The tension throughout the entire film is just nerve-wracking to say the least. There's so much going on. So my predicted winner for Best Original Screenplay is going to be Parasite, and I think it's going to be a worthy win. This is a great set of nominees for this particular category, but I think Parasite's going to come out on top, and I think it deserves to. Now, Best Director. This is another very, very strong set. You have the nominees are Martin Scorsese for The Irishman, Todd Phillips for Joker, Sam Mendes for 1917, Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Bong Joon-ho for Parasite. Like I said, very, very tough race. A lot of high caliber talent, a lot of high caliber names. If I could possibly see Bong Joon-ho again sneaking up to possibly win Best Director. I don't think that's going to happen, because if you look at the ambition that went into the production of 1917, I'm going to be very surprised if Sam Mendes doesn't win his second Best Director award for 1917. Like I said, there's just so much going on in terms of the production and everything that the film tried to accomplish on both a filmmaking and storytelling front. And I don't think that wouldn't have been nearly as apparent if it weren't for the touch of Sam Mendes. So I'm going to be very surprised if Sam Mendes doesn't win in this particular category. He's also another one that's been winning a lot of the particular awards leading up to the Oscars. He won the Directors Guild of America Award. He won the Golden Globe. So I'm going to be very surprised if Sam Mendes doesn't take Best Director. Okay, now, Best Picture. The one that everyone waits for. The nominees are Ford v. Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. Now, again, this is another very, very strong set, and like I said before, this has a lot in part to do with the fact that 2019 was just a fantastic year for movies all around. Now, I think the race has come to between 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. Like I said, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, mainly because, and I say it again, that Hollywood nostalgia that I'm sure a lot of Academy members are like being manipulated by. Then you go to Parasite, which, like I said before, has this quiet momentum behind it. And I feel like with the fact that it's the first South Korean film to ever not only be nominated for Best International Film, or formerly known as Foreign Language Film, but also the first Best Picture nominee to be from South Korea. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of people, at least in the Academy, that want to go with this film that is centered on, Asian characters. They're going to go with that whole identity politics sort of route. But if it's not this film, then I think 1917 is the other big front runner. Because again, it won the Producers Guild of America award, and that's usually again like the more accurate precursor as to what's actually going to win Best Picture. Now, since between 1917 and Parasite, since Parasite is more than likely going to win Best International Film, I feel like the Academy is more than likely going to use that as like a consolation prize for 1917 taking Best Picture. This happened last year with Roma versus Green Book. I was so confident that Roma was going to win Best Picture out of all the nominees for that particular year. I think it deserved to win Best Picture the most, but it ended up winning directing, cinematography, and foreign language film, and not Best Picture. Best Picture went to Green Book, and I think that was like, okay, we'll give this one international film, we'll give this one foreign language film, and we'll give Green Book Best Picture. So I think that's exactly what's going to happen here between 1917 and Parasite. So I think 1917 is going to be the Best Picture winner. Now again, even though 1917 wasn't my number one film of 2019, this film winning Best Picture still makes sense to me because it's still an incredible film. This one coming out in front of a lot of other really, really just flat out amazing films. I think that says a lot. 1917 I think is going to end up being the big winner for the Academy Awards. I think it's going to be a very interesting night for a number of reasons.